Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm talking with Evelien Acun-Roos. We talked about doing her master thesis on security while being pregnant of her second child, teaching dance classes since she was 16 years old, and wanting to be the best version of herself. I'm Evelien from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone, and hello with me. I have Evelien. I think that's how I should pronounce your name. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
In English. And when I say Evelien here with me, I'm going to try to show where you are. And actually, well, I didn't prepare correctly. So at this moment, I am in Ghent, in Belgium, and you're in the Netherlands, in Hilversum, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, correct.
And there's actually already quite a few people that have Martijn Daalman and Angie Doyle have also interviewed already from Hilversum
Oh, yeah, yeah,
environment. So you're
nice.
not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say Belgium, Netherlands, we're at this moment it's almost 5:30, and I think it's the same time for you because Belgium and Netherlands we are in the same time zone
Yes, exactly.
at least.
Almost 5:30. Yeah,
At least the last time I checked.
yeah.
You never know what country is changing these days.
Sure.
Evelien, before we start into everything, how do you want to introduce yourself? What's before we start with the question? What's a good way, or what is something that you want people to know about you?
Well, what I want people to know about me, well, I'm obviously very happy that I'm here on your show. So that's a great opportunity for me. So I'm happy to be here. And well, a lot of me can be found on LinkedIn. So if you want to search for my career things and well things that I do, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But
And this
for
should be. Oh no, that's not the link. I have the wrong link. This should be the link.
yes,
Evelien Rose.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's for
Interesting.
the professional stuff, and of course, LinkedIn is not like Facebook or Instagram. So you won't find there that I am a mother of three kids, that I live in Helmond, and that I love to play tennis and go to the gym. So that's additionally to the information that's on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I think, well, I think it's also important that as a whole person, indeed, it's not just the work.
Yeah.
You're exactly that. I really like when people add this also to the introduction because it's part of who you are,
Yes.
or at least that's what I assume. That it's not just working. There could be
Yeah.
people that are just working, but yeah, I think for most of us, we are not just the person at work, but we're whole. And we actually, in most cases, we bring our whole self to work and
Yes.
everything. So
Yeah, it's certainly a big part of my big part of my work, and also a big part of how I got to this point. So it's yeah, I think it's important to mention it, but it's not something that you like put on LinkedIn like every day. Maybe once in a while, but not every day.
well, yeah, I have the tendency when I post things to use pictures of my children
Hmm.
because I don't like to use too much AI pictures.
Yeah.
And but yeah, actually, the strange thing is these days I'm typically using pictures of my children who were a lot younger, and so they've grown up more. But I'm no longer allowed to use current pictures, so I
Mhm.
keep using the older
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So for some people, it might look as if my children are not growing, but yeah, it's just
Never
an
growing
agreement
old.
I have.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, Evelyn, let's start with that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
What a lot of people don't know about me, what has influenced me, I've been a dance teacher as a side job for many years from the age of 16. So I was teaching classic
Wow.
dance classes for a long time. And I did it next to my studies or my education. And so I was always busy with teaching and training, and how can you make sure that your group of students well kind of follows you and gets the dances in their head, kind of. um,
Hmm.
and I think that might have been the lead in to what I do today. I'm a full-time trainer. I'm a dedicated trainer, so it means that I don't do consultancy anymore. I just teach, or well, just teach. I teach classes and I present at conferences. Yeah.
And when you say you started this at age 16, what triggered you to start doing this?
Well, I was already a member of that dance group, so
Hmm.
and I really wanted to take that one step further. So I started doing like an internship and doing co-training with a more senior trainer. And at a certain moment, I got my like a diploma, and I was able to do it by myself.
And
And
what was the age of the people that you were training at that time or coaching when
yes,
you
well,
started at
I,
16?
I think at the highest point when I had 10 groups, 10 lessons.
Wow.
Yeah.
In a week on top
Yeah,
of everything you
in a
did.
week. Yeah. In a week.
That's almost a full-time job.
Yeah, but the fun thing is that these dance classes start after school ends. So that's
Hmm.
from 4 to 8 or from 5 to 9. So it's very good combinable with the study that I did.
And you didn't have to do any homeworks or any other kind of things for the school
I did,
or the
but it was easy. It was I was able to combine it. Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
youngest people from those lessons were like 3, 4, 5 years old, and the eldest were
But
like,
that's
oh,
done in the weekend, I assume. I assume you're not going to train or
yeah,
coach people from 3, 5 at I don't know 5, 6 in the evening,
no, that
or
could
am
be
I
like
wrong?
a Saturday morning from 9 to
Right.
10, and then the older people, or the older girls, they would be like in the evenings during the week. And I think the oldest group of people that I had was like between 18 and 25. So yeah.
And you were already at the same age at that time, or you were still younger than the
I
oldest
think when
person
I
at that time?
started, I did the small groups with the small children, and the older I got, the older also the kids got. Yeah.
Right. But I'm asking a lot because at this moment my daughter is 17 and she's actually doing something very similar since last year, so
Yeah.
about a similar kind of age. And
Mm.
it's very interesting to see indeed, like you, well, she started with the youngest children, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting to see how much energy that gives on
Hmm.
top of indeed doing all the other
Yeah.
trainings that she participates in, everything.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I just stopped with that, I think, like 4 years ago, just before the COVID hit.
Wow. So even after having already a couple of children, you kept doing that.
Yeah. So the last lessons that I gave were on Friday afternoon from 4 to 7. So I was able to combine that with my job and with the family life that I had. So I've been doing that until I was like 30 whatever, for a long time. Yeah.
That's really wonderful. And if you because you say it, yeah, now you're a full-time trainer. Now you work on, well, other kind of agility. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way, because dancing is also
True.
some
True,
kind
true.
of agility.
Yeah.
Um, were there things that what did you learn that you could use in your current job as a trainer? Are there things that you say that, hey, this is what I learned at that young age? Or,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had a process to teach new stuff. So if
mm-hmm,
whenever there was a new part of the dance, we would have 4 steps. It was uh, telling the new dance step, showing it, doing it together with slow counting, and
mm-hmm,
doing it together with the actual counting, and then oh, it's 5 steps, and then having them do it themselves. So whenever you teach something new, you go through those 5 steps. So it's kind of a process, and I think that I use some of those process steps also in my own training. It's not just telling, telling, telling. It's doing it together in a slow pace, doing it together in the regular pace, and then letting them do it themselves. So I think those patterns you can also see in regular education, that you go through these motions and through these steps, and they not do not they don't um, how do you call it? They are not exactly the same, but you can
Mm-hmm.
recognize a pattern also in the way that you teach.
Right. And when you, especially at an older age, when you're, I assume that in the beginning you were still dancing yourself,
Yes.
but did you keep dancing until the end when you kept training, or was there a moment that you said, "I just focus on training," or how was that for you?
At a certain, I've been dancing myself also for a very long time, and I almost stopped at the same time that I stopped teaching. So
Ah,
I was
okay.
always, and of course you grow, and at a certain moment you're kind of the oldest of the group, and then you go to another group with just teachers. So we had a group of just teachers, but I was always the older generation because, well, I've been there for 20 years. Um, so I really had to do my best to keep up with the young people.
So you had to, well, when you say keep up, I think also about, well, maybe not keeping fit, but more like making sure that you have, yeah, that you're not getting tired when you're dancing and
Yeah,
everything like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, is there, was there a moment that, I don't know, dancing is also about keeping balance and everything? Was there a moment that becomes harder? I have no idea. I haven't danced, especially not at that level. I mean, but is that at some point harder as you get older, or is that better because you have more experience?
Well, the trouble with balancing is more balancing between the effort you put into your dance classes and the effort you put in your family than
Mm.
it's about physical balance. Because I don't think that changes a lot. I think the only thing that changes a lot is your memory and how easy it is to remember stuff. The older you get, I think the less easy it becomes to remember your dance steps, because, well, your head is already full with work stuff and things you have to do at home. So I think there's like a cognitive overload for your brain if you also have to in the evening have to dance.
And remember other stuff next
Yes.
to just the
Yeah.
dancing. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
see that.
Exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can definitely see that. Wow, it's yeah, it's amazing, and I can, yeah, I think work life balance is for us, a lot of us, a different kind of balance. I'm not
Mhm,
even sure there is really a balance. I personally try to integrate it, but
mhm.
there is always a limit to what you can integrate, of course,
True.
because time wise, it needs to fit in your agenda.
Mhm.
Um, and was there ever, because as a trainer, I don't, I know you're working full time as a trainer, but are you focusing mostly on training in the Netherlands, or are you sometimes abroad at conference and things like that? How did you combine that with teaching classes? Because that's always physically available, I think, being in the classroom locally.
Yeah. Yeah, so I try to plan around that. For a long time dancing
Mm,
was my top priority, and teaching my classes was my priority. And when that gets of less of a priority, then you're less willing to put so much effort in it. And, well,
mm,
when you reach that moment, it's time to say, okay, it's not my priority anymore. I'm going to focus on work, focus on going abroad, going to international conferences, instead of saying, oh, it's on a Friday, I cannot because I have to do my teaching classes or my dancing classes. At a certain
right.
moment, you have that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. Well, these kind of things is always brings so much, and well, I've noticed that doing these kind of personal
Mm,
activities, both non-physical, but I think even more the physical ones,
mm,
it helps us to be better in focus, and it helps us to be better at our job, because yeah, we can let go tensions in many different kind of ways.
Yes.
So I want to add that because it might sound like, oh, I don't care about my job, and then for me that's never the case. It's by having that focus, you
Mhm.
actually are also better at your job. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's how, at least how it feels to me. I'm not sure if that's true for you, but that's how it felt to me when you said that.
Well, I think it's true, but and I now replaced the dancing or teaching dancing classes by doing fitness or going to the gym. So I still have physical exercise. That helps me just to stay fit.
Stay fit and stay, yeah, moving and
Yeah, but now it's at a time that I can decide myself. So if I want to go on Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock, or on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, then I can make it up myself. So yeah,
And I guess you can do some of the exercises even if you're at the conference somewhere else in another, in a
yeah,
hotel room or
true,
something like that.
true, true, true. I do always try to find a hotel that has some kind of gym in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
like the way you put it because we all know how the gyms from a hotel look like.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
I recognize what you say there.
yeah.
Okay, let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, do you have any idea what would have become of you?
Um, if I would not be doing what I'm doing now, so now I'm a dedicated trainer and have experience in the agile space. If that would not have been the case, I was pursuing a career in information security when I graduated from university. So if the chances were, or if the odds were different, I would probably have done something in security and not in the agile space.
Okay, and what attracted you to security?
Well, it was the part of information security where um, that had a human component in it. So, like ethical hacking or social engineering. That was really what I wanted to do something in. But this is like 20 years ago, or maybe even more, maybe 20 years ago. And security was not as it was not given so much attention as it is being given now. And certainly that area, the combination between human and security, was totally not in the picture. So
Right.
yeah, there was no interest, there were no jobs. But I really thought, well, that seems interesting to me because, well, you can have a very good security policy, but if your people still write their passwords on a sticky note and put it on their laptop, there's no, yeah, it's not useful to have such a security policy. So that's what I really wanted to do, like influencing behavior and seeing what you can do with the human side of security, but that never worked. And then I rolled into the agile space.
It's and is that something because you said these days it gets much more attention, which I recognize. I think in the current world, yeah, also the fact that we're living in a world that is much more connected than
Mm.
before,
Yeah.
it's probably also much more needed.
Mhm.
Well, we have everything that's happening in the world. The last couple of years shows us also that there might be need for more security. Is that something that you regret in a way when you look back at how that got so important these days?
Mm.
Is that something you regret or not?
Um, that's a good question. Um, I love everything that I do right now. Uh, um, I love agile. I love Scrum. Um, but if you think about the impact that you could make,
Hmm.
and maybe also like the long lasting impact, um, I think I would be pretty happy if I had a career in security. And also, if you look at the people who are in security now, are there's not so much diversity. So I think I would have loved it to be in that space, and well, to have grown into a certain, maybe in the same position as I do now. Maybe I was teaching like information security trainings because that's something that I do love. But I would have another like on another topic to cover. Uh,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
I can definitely get that.
yeah,
That there's, and again, it's not about is it a bad choice or a good choice. We make the choices in our lives that we make, and we end up where we are.
yeah.
But it's in. I'm asking also because I've noticed that with a lot of people, I also see it with my children who are at the age that they have to decide. It's like
Mhm.
there is not one perfect path. It's like you go somewhere and later on you can see, oh, like you said, I really like the way you said it. Like I could have been perfectly happy in doing that, and
Yeah.
yeah, okay, it just turned out to be
Hmm.
somewhere else where I do think you still have a lot of impact, but it would be a different kind of impact that you would have had
Oh, thank
if
you.
you're talking about
Yeah, yeah.
security. So
I'm still
so
happy
yeah.
in the agile space, though. It's not that I regret being. It's not that I regret being here. Yeah.
That's definitely what I thought. I didn't want to give people that impression or
So,
you. Um, well, talking about difficult kind of things, what is for you your biggest challenge at this moment, or at least the biggest challenge you want to share openly on the internet?
um, my biggest challenge is I think we are living in a different world than that we lived in 5 years ago. With regards to training, so I don't do consultancy anymore, but I do see the world around me changing for agile coaches and agile consultants, and
Mm-hmm.
also for scrum masters and product owners. So I think the challenge for me is to keep. I want to just very, if you say it black and white, to keep my classes full. Of course, that's not
Mm-hmm.
the purpose to have full class, but of course we want to improve people.
And when you say full, could you give an idea? How are we talking about? Hundreds of people, 5 people? What is a full class for you?
So full is big enough that we don't have to cancel, which is like
Mm-hmm.
6 and lower is something that, yeah, it's not going to be so valuable if we have six or less people,
Mm-hmm.
because you have
Yeah,
less.
this is why I'm exactly why I'm asking, because I've done I've done technical training, and then I've even done a class at some point with one person because my boss said we had to cancel this already
Mhm.
twice for this client. We're going to do it because we want to help him,
Mm.
but a technical training with one person, that's kind of okay. But an agile training where you want to do interact with other people, that doesn't make any sense for
No,
me.
no, 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 no. So I think that's so the challenge that we have is, organizations tend to be very careful with their budgets now. So
Mm-hmm.
L&D people or yeah, people have less budget to go to training. Um, so to stay to keep working as
Mm-hmm.
a Scrum trainer, well, there's one need that we have for that, or there's one thing that we have to have for that is people who want to attend the training. And I think with the current changes in the agile world for agile coaches, consultants, scrum masters, and that kind of stuff, I do think that it's becoming slower. I think there's still need for scrum trainings, but it's coming slower. And what we see now is that kind of the people, the laggers in agile and scrum
Mm-hmm.
environment, those people still come to our trainings. So that's the governments and um, yeah, like I said, the kind of the laggers in agile and scrum.
Well, I think in many different kinds of things. I don't want to um, pick on governments, and for me, it's not in a negative way. But I
Mm,
think it's also very sensible if for the people who pay taxes that okay, maybe the government shouldn't jump on every first thing. So
mm, mm, mm.
that they're kind of waiting a little bit. Is this something that is valuable?
Sure.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Sometimes I also think we should go a little bit faster, but it's understandable that they will not be the very first to jump
True.
on a
Yeah,
new hype.
for
So
certain.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we now see also see people from hospitals.
Mm.
governments and also the military going into the agile space. So I think there's still a lot of work to do, but it's just shifting and it's getting slower. So, while another like a bank or a financial institution would say, okay, we have 200 people that we want to train. Let's do it. Let's get this thing on the road. If you want to train 12 people for the Belastingdienst or tax
Tax
institution,
services, yeah,
tax
exactly.
services, it will take a little bit longer to get that approved one. It will take a little bit longer to get the budget. Yeah.
Oh, I have a. Okay, I'm going to share a story from my father. My father used to work at some point at the government institution in Belgium. And one of the stories that I remember, and maybe I remember it wrong, but when I was younger, at some point they bought or they ordered. So there were these very famous HP printers.
Mm.
The first ones that you could actually install at home were very cheap black and white HP printers, and then there came a new version which was a colored version and was really, yeah, it was incredible that you would be able to print in color at home. And they, the way I remember it is that they ordered it before or they got an offer before the actual printer was on the market,
Mm.
and by the time they had approved it, it was already an outdated
Yeah.
print because it took like 4 years
Mm.
before everything, and they had to, yeah, they ordered it, I don't know, because it was dirt cheap. They said, okay, let's buy thousands of it, but if you want to buy thousands of it, it's a bigger budget, and then it
Mm.
has to be approved by even more ministers and
Yeah.
whatever. And so yeah, we ended up with, okay, that's and maybe it's a little bit exaggerated, and after all these years I'm remember it incorrectly,
Mhm.
but it kind of shows how sometimes it's very slow in organizations like a government
Yeah.
to get a budget approved at some of
Mhm.
these levels.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
so
so,
yeah, and
so I think that is currently a challenge that we have
mhm.
that we as yeah.
and
Sorry.
and in that question there was also a second part: is there a good thing for you about that? What's good about that challenge for you?
Um. Well, the the good thing is that we have to prove ourselves that we're good trainers.
Hmm.
That we're not just a random person who teaches Scrum, but that we really know our stuff and that we have trained many people. That we have a good track record. So I think it's a nice challenge to
Yeah,
to
it's and I
just
think it's indeed like you say. Even if you were good 5 years ago, it you still need to stay relevant. You still
Mhm.
need to be good, and being a good trainer for the front runners might not be the best person for laggers. So there is also, I think there is definitely something that you need to keep working on yourself and
Yeah.
proving like, hey, I'm valuable,
Mhm.
not just for any client, but for this particular current set of clients.
True.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that, yeah, definitely I can see that. It might sometimes be hard to think about that because yeah, I can imagine. I don't know about you, but I can imagine when it's getting harder to get these kind of customers convinced that it takes a while. But yeah, it's actually for also it's there is also a good part for you in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that for me kind of leads me automatically to that next question: what drives you? Because I think, well, the way I know you from the community, I think you're a very passionate person. If you keep, well, just the story about dancing as well. Like if you keep doing that for so many years, if you
Mm.
keep doing, there is a lot of passion, there is a lot of drive there. Do you know where that passion and that drive is coming from?
That's a good question. I I do. I'm a person who um, really appreciates long relationships, loyalty, reliability. So those are really words that I yeah, that I like, that I
Mm-hmm.
think are important. Um, and that means also that when I go for something or I do something, that I want to pursue that and to continue that and to improve that. So yeah, you could say, okay, you've been in the agile space for so long, or you have done so many conferences. Is it still interesting, or is it just repeating the same old trick? Or even for trainings, is it not just, well, every week you do the same training? How do you keep it interesting for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm always looking for better ways to do training, or better ways to do my conference talks. So that makes it that makes it that I think that could be the answer to your question. What drives me is co- uh, uh, um, continuously wanting to do better. So that is in my trainings, that is in my conference talks. Um, yeah, I want to I want to become better every time. And I don't know, maybe if you then after a year of training or conference talks, you say I quit or I don't do it anymore, then I kind of take away the opportunity for myself to learn and to become better.
Mm. And that is, after all these years of doing Scrum training,
Hmm.
still something that you're able to keep improving and learning yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And that's the fun thing. I try out new exercises, or I try out new flows, or I take things out if people have responded to me. And because of course we ask feedback from our students. So if there's a lot of replies on a certain part of the training, then I try to make it better or more engaging, or less. Well, sometimes the comment is, well, it was a lot of sticky notes, or it was a lot of interaction, or there was a lot of talk.
Hmm.
So I try to improve that. I was always almost hesitant to say I want to be the best at something, because that's not the case. It's not that I want to be the best in training or best at conference talks, but I do want to keep improving myself.
The
So that,
best version of yourself, is that the,
that
or
yeah,
the you want to be um, a better version tomorrow than you are today? Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, I think that's that, yeah. So not better comparing to someone else, but better compared to myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw something passing by some time ago where there was a trainer who talked about a very young girl that learned to run, and it's like, okay, the very first time she ran I don't know, a very short distance run, she was lost, but okay, that was literally the very first contest that she was, and she was like, okay, you were lost, but now you have your personal record, and basically now you have something to aim to. Next time you just need to be half a second faster or something
Mhm.
like that, and you can keep working. And even if at the moment that you win the game, but you actually didn't run your personal record, or
Mhm.
maybe even let's exaggerate, you win the
Mhm.
game, the running part, but you run 5 seconds slower than your normal time, then
Mhm.
actually you didn't run good.
Yeah.
That's actually, and that, yeah, that's the kind of thing. Even if you're the best trainer, if you're actually less good than your normal days, and
Mhm.
I don't think it's important that people always beat their personal record every
Mhm.
time, because that can be very exhausting, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But still, you want to beat your average, or at least be as your normal average,
Mhm.
in most of the days. That's
Yeah.
the kind of thing. Huh?
I think it's
I
also,
really like that.
and now you say that with running, it's also maybe when you go to the gym, and sometimes people ask, but is that not boring? You're doing the same things over and over again, but it's not the same. You add a little bit of weight, or you do more repetition, or and you do something different, and you see the results because, well, you get more muscle growth, or so you're continuously improving yourself. But for maybe for outstanders or outsiders, or people who don't go to the gym, it's just boring. You just do the same stuff every time you go there. So
Yeah, I again that's it whatever works for you. I think that's also an important thing,
Yeah,
that we have to, yeah, it's not because it works for you that it works for somebody else, and vice versa. It's
true.
not because, yeah, some things work for other people that it will work for you. I think
That's
that's the kind of thing.
very true.
um, and when I look or ask for where does that come from, if you look at yourself, for example, at 16 when you started to become that trainer,
Mhm.
was that also part of you, like, okay, I'm maybe exaggerating a bit, but like, okay, I know already how to dance, let's pick the next part, how I can do this. Was that some drive for the 16-year-old version of Evelyn?
Yeah, yeah. And then so I was looking for a next step for myself. And yeah, and what better step is there as a dancer to become a teacher? And it's funny that you say that, because it's also that I was a scrum master for a long time, and for me the next step in that was becoming a scrum trainer. So um,
Hmm.
for me that was, yeah, how do you call it? Is it a like a career move, or like a logical career step for me to pursue that professional scrum trainership from scrum.org. um
Well, I think when well, at least how it works for me is that if I have, if when I need to when I let's find the right words, explaining something is much harder than doing something.
mm,
So by learning how to explain, I need to understand it better, so it forces me again. I mean, yeah, I just a couple of years ago I teach my children, or two of my children, how to drive, and I
mm,
need to think again, what do I do? Because
mm.
driving, I don't think about it
Yeah, yeah,
anymore. But yeah, what you actually do, and okay, I can show them, but at the same time I need to slow down, and it's like, okay, so it makes me again at that moment also a more attentive driver, I would say.
yeah.
And I think that's true for a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
true.
yeah, but it's interesting that at the age of 16 you're already kind of thinking in that direction.
Yeah, yes,
So
funny. Yeah,
that's wow.
nice discovery.
Let's move to that next question. What you consider your biggest achievement? And what I've learned in the whole podcast series is that when I ask this question, basically this is your moment to brag. This is your moment to be really proud of something. And when I ask that, I've noticed that for some people it's not that easy. Is it easy for you as a person to brag and to be really proud of something?
For me it's not so easy, and I'm not getting teared up, but I have a severe cold, and there's a, yeah, there it was. There was a tear coming. Um, well, I'm not a person that like brags a lot on her achievements or look at. Yeah, and that maybe sounds silly because I do post a lot. Look at how we had a wonderful training, or it was a great conference, or that kind of stuff. Um, so I do like to share, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm yeah, I don't like to brag.
Right. Okay. So, okay, that was the side question. So now it is still your moment to brag and to be proud. What do you consider your biggest achievement so far?
Yeah, my biggest achievement so far, something that some of my yeah, people around me know this. In 2007, my second child was born, a daughter, and it's also the same year that I finished my master at the university. So that
Hmm.
sounds
Wow.
complicated, and it was.
Wait. Please don't tell me you passed in the same week as your daughter was born. And how? What's the time frame on? What's the order of events that this happens?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more complicated than that. I will tell you the whole story. So in I met my current husband in
Mm-hmm.
2000. So that's almost 25 years ago. We've been together for almost 25 years, so that's great.
Wow.
And
That's also an achievement.
it's also an achievement. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Well, when you're young and you're in love, maybe think about having kids, and when you're busy with that, it's like you read some stuff about it, and they say on average it will take you a year and a half to get pregnant. And so I calculated, and I thought, well, if I get pregnant now, I will be in my last year of the higher education, so not university but your higher education, and then I can have my baby and it will be all fine. But then I was pregnant after 1 month.
Oops. Because you were lucky in the sense that your body was like, okay, it worked out really fine.
Exactly. So then
Hmm.
I was in the in the end of the third year of my higher education. So at a certain moment, I stopped and had my first child in 2001. And after a year of pausing my education, I returned to the higher education of HBO, and I finished that. And I was not completely sure what I wanted to do after finishing that education, so I went to university, um, information science. So in line of what I studied before, but I was at a certain
And
moment.
all while being a parent, I mean,
Yes,
basically.
yeah.
And so you didn't work at that time, right? So you're,
No,
or
I
did I
did my
miss that?
dancing classes. I did my dancing classes on the side. Yeah,
Right, right, right. So you had some, well, not some. If you do 10 hour, 10 lessons, then there is some income at least,
yeah,
indeed. Yeah,
yeah. And I
but
had my
still, but
husband.
wait. Uh, did you continue your dancing classes while being pregnant? I
I
don't
did
want to go too much into. Wow.
to a certain
Okay.
to a certain moment until it was not doable anymore. Yes, I did. Yeah.
And also, but maybe even harder after giving birth, because then your body is still, well, you, at least for most mothers, in the beginning you still need to adjust to yeah, having giving birth, having
Mm.
taking care of a child. So that's, wow, that is incredible if you can restart rather. Yeah, that takes
Well,
a lot of energy, I
it
would
was
say.
an advantage of being young. I was 21, so yeah, that also.
Right. We do young and foolish things, or foolish things when we're young, or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, it was the ultimate idea of showing that you love each other.
Mm,
But
true.
yeah. So in but in 2000, 2000, I think 2006, we thought, me and my husband thought, well, our son is now 4 or 5 years old. Maybe we should give it a try for a second child. And well, I took a long time to write my master's thesis, because, well, I was pregnant and it took some time, and I gave birth in 2007 to my second child, and I still had to finish my master thesis or scriptsy, yeah, master thesis. So that was in the same year.
And so you did part of the writing also after giving birth, or most of it before, or how should I say it?
Both. So I did interviews with these famous security experts from the Netherlands, like people that were high in rank, like a information security expert of ABN or a bank, and a
Hmm.
professor from here and a professor from there, and I did it all with a big pregnant belly. So yeah, they must have that must have been a weird sight. Uh, a woman interviewing them about information security who
Because
almost.
is that then I kind of assume that there's not many women also in information security, or were there? No.
No, and the people that I interviewed were all men. Yeah.
Hmm. And there you are with
Yeah.
pregnant, with your child, second child already,
Yes.
and doing that. Wow.
Yeah. So not the typical student, not the typical IT student.
Hmm.
And well, in 2007, I was done with, well, done with my study. I did receive my master degree, and yeah, my daughter is born in 2007 too. So it was a busy year.
Wow. That's the least you can say, and that's definitely a real achievement if you can do all of that. Because yeah, doing that, once. I mean, with the first child, but especially if it's a second child, you already have another one to take care of.
Yeah,
That is not that old, so that definitely still needs a lot of attention.
yeah.
And doing dance classes and all these kind of things, like wow, okay. I'm not sure I did crazy stuff when I was 21, but definitely not that kind of things. So,
Yeah, yeah. It was
so
it
yeah, I
was
think yeah,
it
wow,
was very busy, and well, the good thing is that my husband um was always very supportive. So, and I have a very I have my mother and I have my family close around me, so I have a
hmm,
large, how do you call it, mm, it was always possible to either bring the kids to childcare or to have my husband work at home or stay at home, or ask my mother to take care of the kids. So I really did have a big social fang net. I don't know what the
yeah, oh yeah, safety net.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, to then and well, there is always that famous phrase that says it takes a village to raise a child, and I
yeah,
think we sometimes forget how important that is when you have people who can help out
yeah.
in these kind of situations.
Yeah. And the thing, if you go to school and you say, "Well, my kid is sick, so I cannot come to school," it's less of a problem than that you would say that at work.
Wow. Okay, I didn't
You
think
can-
about
Yeah,
that.
you can skip classes. You can skip your homework. That's up to you. But if you're really in the working space, you cannot. Yeah, yeah. Well, you can, of course. Now you can, but it's a little bit harder to say, "Well, I'm going to skip my work day because I have a sick
Right.
child or I have to do this or that." So it was also that there was an amount of flexibility in school that you don't have when
And
you're working.
because you already said that in information, so the whole security education that you found, there were not many women. How were the teachers thinking about having, first of all, a woman in class, but then also young mother in class? How was that? Were they forgiving for this, or did they like you in class or not?
Well, I don't know if they like me, but it was not that I was given special privileges or something. No, no, I
No,
just
okay.
had to work just as hard as my male colleagues or male
Just
students.
as hard or harder? Because sometimes I hear that women have to do a lot more to kind of prove themselves, that they kind of say like, okay, you don't belong here, or that was that already kind of acceptable to be in that
I
class?
don't think that it was the case, but I also did not. I could not compare. I could not really compare it.
Hmm,
Yeah.
right, indeed, because that is sometimes. And were there many other women in your class, or were you the only one at that level?
No, and especially at university, I think there might be one or two, but I was not a lot in the social
You
engagement.
didn't, you wouldn't go out because, well, you had a family to take care of. That
Yeah.
also makes it completely different,
Yes.
of course.
Yeah.
But thanks for sharing, because it's a different kind of achievement than what usually comes up, but it's a really important one if you can combine and have all these kind of balls in the air, and like, yeah,
Mm.
talking about work life balance. That's definitely some a real nice achievement. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
Let's move to that next question. What do you consider, or do you have a personal agility tip to share?
For me, it is always seek for improvement or be open for improvement.
Hmm.
Um, we are never perfect. My training is never perfect. My conference talks are never perfect. So I'm always looking for ways to improve.
And
Uh,
wait, I want to zoom in a little bit that, because for many people, not being perfect sometimes gives some kind of anxiety or some kind of, I don't know. For some people, it really feels like, yeah, and for you, you maybe I'm exaggerating, but you almost say it as a kind of as being proud, like, oh, I can improve. So it's
Hmm.
almost like a badge of honor that you say my trainings are not perfect.
Hmm.
Is that exaggeration for me, or what?
No, I think that's true. I really believe that, although you've I don't know, you've done something many times, and you're pretty good at it. I think there's still always room for improvement. So I think that's you. I think that's the right observation that you shared.
Yeah, it's something that I personally believe in myself as well.
Mhm.
I'm actually annoyed is maybe the wrong word, but I did get sometimes when I ask for feedback, it's like, oh no, there's nothing to make better, and people think that would make me happy, and actually I'm getting annoyed about it because I'm like,
Mhm.
well, there is always something I can do better, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, and they might not even say the word perfect, but at the same time they're like, no, it's fine. It's like, yeah, but
Mhm.
I'm looking for feedback. I'm looking for things to improve
Yeah.
because I know there's always things. So yeah, I like that. And so, how do you, when you say, how do you look for these kind of things? Because you already talked about the feedback that you get from your participants in your class.
Mhm.
Are there other ways that you look for ways to improve?
I think that is the main source of information, the feedback that we get from our
Mm-hmm.
participants. Um, of course, we always we ask at the end of the training, at the end of 2 day training, we ask people what they think of it and if they would recommend us. But also during the training, after lunch, and at the end of day one, and after lunch at day two, I always ask what can we do different in the afternoon than we did in the morning. So it's not just
Mm.
feedback at the end of the training; it's continuous
In
feedback
the middle.
in the middle. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I've started doing this. Oh, I was about to say a year, but I have no idea. But I've started even doing that in job interviews because I'm working mostly as a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, as a consultant, you do job interviews
Mm-hmm.
because you have to prove that I'm the right candidate. And I've actually started doing that halfway through interviews, both when I'm interviewing people and when I'm interviewed. It's like, okay, we're like at least halfway, sometimes three
Mm-hmm.
quarters, but like, okay, how is this going? What you is not good?
Yeah.
And then there is still a moment to change it because once the training is over or once the interview is over,
Mhm.
it's done. And then afterwards you hear some feedbacks like, oh, I could have actually, you were missing some piece of information that
Yeah.
actually I have available, but I didn't think about sharing. So
That's
that's
a
that. I
pretty
think it's a really good practice to
yeah.
do that halfway.
I think that's a
Um,
good one. Yeah.
and at the same time, I can imagine if you have your plan written out for this is what I want to do in the training,
Mhm.
that feedback gets throw everything in a different kind of order. How do you deal with that?
Well, usually the feedback that you get is they don't stay stuck in a question of a person too long, because
Mm-hmm.
that's my tendency that I like to listen to people. So if
Mm.
people share their challenges, I go into listening mode and want to know as much as I can to learn about their situation. But sometimes that's not relevant for everybody anymore, and then we get lost in like
A rabbit hole
rabbit
because
holes.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh yeah, we all know that. Well, no, I don't know all, but at least I know that very well.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous situation.
So,
Yeah.
so usually it's not about oh, we have to shift the whole training around because I don't like this part, don't like that part. But it's those tiny things that can just make a training a little bit better for everyone. Um, yeah. So and
Yeah.
it sometimes it's more give more practical examples or hear more from the group, and then I pay attention to that more people from the group are being heard. So small adjustments to make it better for everyone. It's not like we have to shift the whole training around or something.
Okay, again, it shows people like, okay, I pay attention to these kind of things.
Yeah.
That's definitely, yeah, very important. I think of these things. Okay, let's move to that next question. What have you learned about remote working? And already, I was well, kind of thinking when you started your dancing class, or when you talked about, oh, maybe you have something about teaching dancing remotely, but COVID, you stopped just before COVID, so I assume you never did dancing remotely.
No.
But what have you learned? Did you? I assume or well, maybe that's a wrong assumption. Did you do all your trainings before COVID fully physical, and did you have to move to do everything remote in just
Yes.
yeah in 1 week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So at the time when COVID hit, I was still doing combination of consultancy and training. So I
mhm,
was at an organization from I don't know September like 2019 till March 2020 or April maybe. And well, of course, we had to switch from in-person consultancy to online consultancy. So that is one change that I had to make, and also the trainings that I gave also had to be all in the online environment. Until that moment, nobody thought it would be possible to do a 2-day training virtually, or nobody would have said, "Okay, that's a good idea," or something that we should do. And I still think having an in-person training is so much better than having a virtual one. And in the Netherlands, I think 95% of our agile and scrum trainings are in person. We hardly see virtual trainings anymore. In the
okay, so
agile,
you moved back almost completely to
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Where we do see a lot of, or where we see more virtual training is in the data and cloud environments. There we see a lot of virtual trainings, but for agile and scrum, it's almost everything is in person.
Hmm.
So what I learned from remote working is that it was good to have it as an alternative when we could not go to the office. But I think there's a lot of value in having that personal connection. And I think if you look at organizations in the Netherlands, there are a lot of people that have gone back to the office for 1 or 2 days. So, or yeah, 1, 2 or 3 days that they say, okay, these are team days. Everybody's in the office. We get to connect with each other, and okay, it's okay if we don't produce or make or create as much as we would do if we were at home, but the personal connection is invaluable. Is so yeah, is so valuable for team members. So we're happy to give a little bit away of our, or give up a little bit of our productivity, kind of. And
But
I don't
for
know how this
the
Belgium.
trainings itself, you're as much. And so if we now zoom in again to that period that you had to do everything remote during the COVID, the whole well
Mhm.
when we were in lockdown, was there anything that you've learned that you didn't think about before?
Um, I think I learned how to make a virtual training also engaging and evolving. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we use Miro or Mural to stimulate interactivity. We have breakout rooms. Well, obviously, you can have liberating structures online. So it's kind of reinventing the wheel, but then for virtual trainings. And I was part of a group that created the virtual edition of Training from the Back of the Room together with
Mm.
Sharon Bowman. We made it like a 2-day course. It's not 2 days; it's actually 5 sessions where we show how you can use the training from the back of the room method. But then in
Wait,
the
wait, 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 wait. You go a little bit quick. You say it's not 2 days. It's 5 sessions. Do I hear? And that's what I want to double check. That you had the 2 day training. That you broke it down in 5 parts, but they're no longer done in 2 days, but they're spread out over multiple days. Is
yes,
that what I'm hearing?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it kind of covers the same content or the same principles, but it's spread out over 5 days with time in between to learn.
And is that then 5 consecutive days, or is that with some multiple days in between? How should I see it, or is
Some
that
days
always
in
different?
between. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Preferably it's spaced practice, so having some time in between to digest the information, to maybe try something out. Yeah, so it's not consecutive. Usually it was spread over two weeks, 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see value because I did follow also multiple trainings of Lisette Sutherland where she does something similar.
Mhm.
Where for her also her remote trainings like no, we're not going to do it all at once, but it's like one half day or 3 hours here, and then the next
Mhm.
week some more, and then yeah, I've noticed that it gives me so much room to experiment with what I've just learned,
Mhm.
because in a lot of trainings you learn something for 2 days, you're very nice in a cozy environment where you think, oh, this is wonderful, and then you come back to work and you're almost immediately to the daily routine, and then you have to keep remember what was there and what could I use. And
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, I learn a little bit, I can try it out, there's
Mhm.
some, then there is some more, and so that I personally like that very much.
Yeah.
Is that but that's a it's almost impossible to do physically. I mean,
True.
bringing people back and forth. That is definitely something, a big advantage of remote.
Yeah.
Does this virtual training from back of room, does that still happen? Are you still teaching these things, or?
In the Netherlands, it's not popular. In countries around us where sorry, where there's still a lot of remote work, like in Germany and in the US, sorry, there's more demand for it. But like in the Netherlands and probably also in Belgium, the travel distance from home to work is so little that people go to the office anyway. And if they want to follow a training, or when they want to do a training, if you have the choice between doing it in person or virtual, a lot of people would go for the in person
Hmm.
training.
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you say the distance is short. It's short in distance, in time. I don't know, in the Netherlands I think it's
Hmm.
even worse than in Belgium. The traffic
Yeah,
sometimes can take
would
you a
be
long
long.
time.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely in a distance. Yeah, if I wouldn't have traffic, I can definitely cross Belgium in all kind of directions in less than a day.
yeah.
So yeah, depends a little bit. When there's traffic, it could take actually a day to even cross a very limited amount of time when there
Hmm.
is snow or big accidents. But yeah, in general, yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah,
It's so closely to do all of that.
yeah.
So I think it kind of moved us already a little bit to the next, or the answer to the next question. What's a book that you have read that you want to talk about?
Well, it is a book that is from the training from the back of the room.
I think
Um,
that's the one from
yes,
Sharon.
yeah,
And that's where you just talked about that virtual version. I think that was part of this,
mhm,
or a
yeah,
lot of the things that are in the book. What
exactly.
do you like so much about that book? Why should everybody read it or study it or whatever?
Yeah, it gives you insights in how you can, as a trainer or as a facilitator, use neuroscience to make your trainings, your sessions, your workshops, your conference talks more inspirational, more engaging, and involving. And the reason why I like it so much is because when I did the training and read the book, a lot of things fell into place. Like I've done agile and scrum training for a longer period, and when you just start with that, you copy your senior colleague, or you take the materials that your colleagues have made, and then well, I started doing that without knowing the reason behind it. And of course, I saw, okay, this works. This is a great game, or this is a good activity because everybody's engaged and everybody's having fun. But when I did the training from the back of the room, it really puts it really put the things together. Like, okay, it works because here's the neuroscience that
Mm,
proves it. And if you know that neuroscience, then you can build upon that. So you can make it, and you can make different activities, or you can add new practices instead of having to copy or duplicate what your colleague showed you or learned you for, so that if for my professional trainer career, that that was a great addition to what I what I was already doing.
Mm, yeah, and yeah, it's a book. I think it's from just before the year 2010, I
Yes.
think, or at least I know that I read it before I moved to France, and so I had that book with me, which was in 2010. So I know it's
Mhm.
before, and it's yeah, I think it took the whole agile community by storm, and it still takes yeah, it still is a lot of people who are a big fan. I've been wanting to go to a training with Sharon for a long time for multiple reasons. I never did it, and it was only after the whole COVID that I learned that she did during in the period some things offline.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I regret that I didn't do it then, and it's on my bucket list of one of the remote trainings that I want to do because yeah, I'm not sure how much I will have the opportunity to go and visit her or be in a classroom where she is.
Because
But
Sharon
yeah,
doesn't teach
definitely.
anymore in person, so she doesn't facilitate the trainer certification course anymore. So there are two other people who do that.
Mm,
So there's usually one in Europe and one in the US, like the physical trainer certification course. But yeah, you can look into it. But Sharon herself does not give the training anymore.
yeah, I didn't want to say that out loud because that's something I've heard, Anna, but I wasn't able to verify it. But thanks for clarifying
The fun
that.
thing is, because you mentioned the date that the book has been written, it's a long time ago. Fun thing is that not last week, but the week before, we came together with a lot of with like 30 TBR training for the back of
Mm-hmm.
home trainers, and we discussed the future of TBR.
Mm,
So, of course, since the book has been written and since the method has been developed, there's new brain research and new things that we could add to the training to equip trainers with new new neuroscience. So that's what we discussed, and we still believe as trainers that it's valuable to not just scrum masters or agile coaches who occasionally do teach, but it's also very useful for teachers or in primary school or secondary school who want to become better in teaching. And like you said, the agile domain has discovered TBR and has used TBR a lot of times, or yeah, has used it extensively. But there's many people, many trainers who have never heard of it. So that's
mm-hmm.
also something that we discussed during that TBR camp. How can we make sure
And
that more
and
people
I want to zoom in a little bit because when you talk about the TBR camp, I
learn?
know for the retrospective, for example, there is a retrospective gathering that is rather open that's happening more or less every year where people can go. Is that also something where people can openly join, or do you have to be a certified TBR trainer, or how does that work?
Well, it was the first time that they organized it. So, and in this case, it was for trainers only.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do know that there was, like last year, there was someone who suggested to do a TBR conference. But well, as you know, how it goes with conferences, it takes a lot of time and effort and dedication. So that has not been organized yet. But I do, but what we did notice, bringing all these trainers into one room gave so much joy and inspiration and the feeling of community that it might be in the future that we do a TBR unconference or a TBR conference for all the people who are yeah, busy with doing TBR.
I'm glad I asked because that's definitely one of the things that I'm like I said, I'm not a full-time trainer, so if I would do that training, it's more for myself to learn about techniques that I
Mhm.
can use also in my consultancy. But I would never want to be I don't know, a certified trainer in a way that I would need. Well, I don't do enough trainings or open or public trainings on these kind of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
But I just last week I did a training for a smaller company that asked for something, and I've used techniques, and I do remember flipping through the book the night before. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, the way I had it in my mind, what do I learn from the book? And I did tweak a little bit some of these things based on re-flipping through it and seeing
Mhm.
some, oh, okay, that's maybe why I wanted to do this or that. So I think it's really a valuable book.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great books on facilitation, but that's something, when people learn about this, it feels very logical, but actually a lot of people do the complete opposite for
Mhm.
multiple reasons. And when you read the book and you learn all the data that there is or the science that there is there, it's
Yeah.
actually it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
And it's a great starting point, right? Because, like I said, neuroscience has been, or things, more and more things are being discovered about how the brain works, and I still think there's still a lot more to discover. But it's a great starting point in your own journey if you want to know more about neuroscience and look in what resources is Sharon referring to, what else is there on the internet, and you can create your own learning journey, kind of, with
Yeah,
updated neuroscience and new insights.
yeah, and like this, well, yeah, it is because it's already more than 10 years old or
Mm-hmm.
15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely new learnings
Yeah,
by the even I would even assume by the time a book is written and by the time it's published, it's almost already outdated by
yeah,
definition.
yeah.
But yeah, it's like you say, we keep learning.
Sure.
Luckily, we keep learning a lot about
Yeah.
training and other kind of things.
Like an example, let's say you wrote a book about AI last year. You know.
Well, but that's the interesting thing. I think about AI. People would think very logical about these kind of things, but when I look at training, when I see how sometimes in schools,
Mm-hmm.
primary schools or others, or even
Mm-hmm.
universities, they teach certain things based on things that they were learned and others. And luckily at universities there's still doing people doing scientific research and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But especially in primary and other kind of schools, these teachers were taught something maybe 20 years ago. They hardly have any time, let alone budget, to
Budget.
go for trainings, and they just keep doing it, and they improve a little bit and they learn from some colleagues, but it doesn't move very quickly. I think we are in an industry that we keep learning, and
Mm-hmm.
you keep discussing and you learn about other things, but
Yeah.
in our general education with for children, that happens a lot less, I would say, for
Yeah.
multiple reasons. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and not for everybody. I have a best friend. My best friend is she works at a primary school, and they
Hmm.
have like these creative work formats for kids. So it's playing with puzzles on what rhymes or what at the tables, multiplication.
Hmm.
Um, so some.
And is that a normal school, or is that more, I don't know, today we have a lot of more methodology kind of schools.
Mhm.
Is that a different kind of school
She
than
works
the
at
normal?
Yeah, she works at a normal school, but she
Hmm.
uses all these. I have gone through her workbook, and I say, okay, we call this the liberating, or this is also the liberating structure book. Um, so between us, we have a lot of overlap. But I'm not. That's not for everybody, or not all teachers have access to that material.
Hmm.
And
And how
like,
did she learn that? Did you infect her with all of that, or how
no,
did she learn that?
I think she's just into finding the best way to let her students learn. Yeah. And maybe that's why we like each other, or maybe that's why we're best friends, because we don't both have that passion. She for kids, and maybe I have that for adults. Yeah.
And but then, because I know that I know quite some teachers who are interested in some of that stuff, but that don't always have the time. And Yeah, also because especially teaching can be, well, it's a full-time job. There is not
Mhm.
much time to go for trainings. Like I said, there is definitely no budget, or at least in Belgium there's no budget
Mhm.
for these so how does she learn? Does she pick up books? Does she, I don't know, watch YouTube, TED Talks? Do you have any idea? It's of course her life, so I'm not sure how much you know about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it was supported by her school,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think I think she was lucky. I could say that because I know a lot of primary schools that don't offer that, and they have like a limited like study budget of, well, just enough that you can buy one book or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's also in the Netherlands. There's not much budget to go to a training, so I think she got lucky with her school supporting that.
Right. So, okay. And then having a friend like you that can actually say like, oh, there is actually a name for these some
Yeah,
of these techniques, and then
yeah. We
yeah,
use this in
but
the adult world too. Yes, yeah. So that's fun to see.
that's really wonderful if you can inspire people. And actually, we also know that in the, well, the Benelux conference XP days, we also had sometimes visit from the people who do eduscrum, so who's using
Hmm.
Scrum also in
Hmm.
education. So
Yeah,
there's actually some people who get inspired by some of the work that we're doing,
yeah.
and that are all, I think, most from the Netherlands, or at least it started out from the
Started there.
Netherlands. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very inspiring to see how they use Scrum in their in the secondary education. Yeah.
exactly. Let's move to, for me, one of the most interesting questions, and especially with such a large conversation going in all that directions. What's a question that you think that I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
The question that I oh hmm. Well, I think we talked a lot about the past and the things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about our current status, but maybe we did not talk about the future so much. Um, well, I don't know what the future is going to look like, but
Is
yeah.
that something that you think a lot about the future of your work, of other kind of things?
Well, I would not say a lot, but I do think that you could, or that I should, or am expected to think about the future. If you look at learning management systems, or self-paced
Mm-hmm.
learning, or maybe virtual learning, or um, asynchronous learning, um, because that's a thing that people might now be more interested in, right? So you get a membership to an online environment, and you can do trainings, or you can do modules, or that kind of stuff. um, so that could be something that impacts my work. um, but I still believe that that the in-person training is still more valuable than doing asynchronous learning. But that might change based upon the needs of our of our audience, of our people. Because if someone says, okay, sorry, this is great, we have a 2-day training in person, but I would rather spend every day 15 minutes in a learning management system. If a lot of people do that, then we obviously have to move our focus towards that, because, well, we do what the users are satisfied with.
Well, also, there might be a moment that you've teach the whole Netherlands about Agile and Scrum, and then there is nobody left anymore to teach. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
is also that option.
Yeah. Well,
Because if you're doing it for a long time, I think also with your company, you've
mm,
by now trained already a lot of people, I would say.
yeah, yeah. I think for the Scrum.org trainings, I'm not counting, but at a certain moment I wanted to know, and then I think like 1 or 2 years ago, it was the thousandth Scrum.org participant in my class. So um,
Wow.
yeah, so we
And you're
celebrated.
just one of the trainers in your company.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was fun to celebrate with cake, and so we had fun. But well, I think there's still many more people to train.
There's more than 1,000 people in the Netherlands. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, 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 yeah.
For those who don't know, I think it's about, I don't know, 14 or 19 million people in the Netherlands. I'm not sure how many
Yeah,
people
I
are
would
there.
say 18 or 19. I think
Right,
19.
something like.
Yeah,
So still a lot more thousand. So you can go on 1,000 times longer than now. Well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of course there is colleagues that do the same
Mm,
thing, but still,
yeah.
yeah, kind.
Well, there's
And
one.
so when you think about that future,
Mm.
when does that scare you that there are things, or is that just encourage you to do even more, or what kind of feeling does it bring to you?
Um, I don't think it doesn't scare me, but I do think you have to like leveraging your AI. I think it's good to think about how you could use it. And maybe then I'm just giving an example. Maybe part of the training that you give, like for instance, if we talk about the Scrum framework, maybe it's an easy part that people could do by themselves at home before they come to the training. And maybe your training then really focuses on the people side of Scrum. So I could kind of imagine that it changes the structure or the format of your training a bit. So instead of having 2 day trainings on Scrum Mastery, you might have 1 day and have things before and things after that people could do themselves. But I would never replace. Yeah, I'm now saying never, but I don't know how that is in 5 years. Yeah, I would never. I would. ho- We hopefully are not replacing in-person training or teachers.
Right. And I was really intrigued when you say we can send things to people that they can do upfront.
Mm,
How is your experience? What's the percentage of people doing that? Because when I play around with it, I've always noticed that a lot of people don't like it or don't understand it.
mm,
And it's, yeah, it kind of gives a schisma in the trainings that like half of the people or less did it and the others didn't, and that's kind of like annoys both parties. How
mm.
does that work for you?
Well, if we give homework up front, or preparation up front, there's like yeah, there are not many people who do it, who do the homework, but that's also dependent on the organization that they work on. So work in. So if it's like usually if it's an in-company training where you go to the organization and do your training there, they are more, I don't know, maybe they are encouraging each other more to read the preparation than with the public training where everybody comes from different organizations. So that is true, but I can assume that if you say, okay, our training starts on Monday and it runs to Friday, but on Monday you have to do something yourself. On Tuesday you have to do something yourself. On Wednesday we meet in person, and Thursday, Friday you can do it yourself. Then you could say it's part of your training content instead of saying, okay, it's something that I sent you up front, see if you want to read it or not. It's not obligatory, but it would help if you read it. But now you say, okay, it's that is the training, that is from Monday to Friday. I think that would help.
Yeah, definitely. If you say it's not obligatory, then yeah, people like, yeah, if you don't think it's important, then I don't think it's important. Definitely, I can see that. But even then, if I sometimes, well, again, you're very right. It depends a lot if you do it in company where there's more people there that they can encourage, or if it's open, depending again on how, yeah, how would I say it, how people, yeah, feel, yeah, that they need to do it, and that
Mm.
they feel encouraged on some. these things. But thanks for sharing all of that because it gives again an insight in how you do some of these trainings.
Mhm.
Actually, it's interesting because when I talk to people like you, I'm always like, oh, I should follow a training. It's like, yeah, again, and yeah, but yeah, I noticed that I keep learning at some of these events,
Mhm.
and it's been, yeah, I don't know, the first training on Scrum I did with Joseph Belrine. I think it's
Mhm.
2005.
Yeah.
My cone that was 2006, so it's
Mhm.
like already a long time ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is definitely things new to learn, other things to see in people around us.
There's always something to learn, and I also like the questions that you ask is also reflecting and mirroring. So it's like this is also a learning experience for me. So I'm
Oh,
very
oh,
grateful.
yeah. People think I do this for the community, and that's partly true, but it's also because I keep learning. I have the advantage of I now spoke more than 160 people around the world,
Hmm.
people that like you are, yeah, way smarter and know much more than I do, and I learn it but from everyone. So I'm like this is well, it's not free training in the sense that
Hmm.
we spend a lot of time with that,
Yeah.
but and it's thinking, and that's what I like.
Yeah. It's nice. It's
And
a learning experience. Yeah.
and talking about other people, that's actually that very last question. Who do you think I should ask next?
Well, I didn't keep a track of who has been here or not.
Hmm.
Um, but I would.
And that's fine. You can even if you would have invited someone who's already there, that sometimes is always also great. But I think you thought about someone who wasn't here yet. So
Um, well, I think you should ask. I'm thinking two names now. For
ah,
me, I would go with Nicole Bailey-Loss. You know her?
I definitely know her, and uh, I did invite her, but she said no.
Okay.
I know why. I'm not going to share here, but
Mhm.
she actually it was 2 years ago, so I might now that you invited her, ask again, see if she
Yeah.
would want to go. And you had a second name in mind as well. Who was the second person that you thought about?
Yeah. The other person is Laurens Bonnema.
And that's Lawrence, if
Yes.
I'm correct.
Hmm.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was correct.
Yeah. Um, Laurens and Nicole have been at Xebia both, or are well. Laurens is still, and Nicole has left Xebia, and they were my kind of my partners from the beginning. They were my buddies within Xebia, and we've done many great things together. And yeah, I'm still meeting with
In
Nicole.
my mind, I might be wrong, but in my mind, Nicole was one of the first Scrum trainers at Xebia. Is that wrong, or
Yes,
is
no,
that?
no, no. You're right. Yeah, the she's one of the first CSTs, so for Scrum Alliance, and yeah, she's still one of the uh, how do you call it? There are not many CSTs in the Netherlands, and she's still, yeah, she's one of them.
Actually, talking about her, let's also bring her on screen for the people who don't
Yes.
know her.
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah.
Okay, but we jump back to Nicole. Let's talk again back about Lawrence. Why do you think Lawrence should be here?
Like I said, they were my buddies from the start that I started at Xebia. That's now already 10 years ago, and they actually helped me a lot in a lot of steps in my career. So that's and they're both amazing in different ways, but they were there like yeah from the beginning. Well, my beginning at Xebia, I should say.
And so what I'm hearing from you is that you actually learned a lot of from them and
Yes.
working together with them.
Yes.
Um, I actually well, I'm with the community and everything. I'm a big fan of doing a lot of trainings in a pair with another training. Is that something you regularly do at Xavier as well, or how does that work?
We do if it's possible, but it's not standard.
Hmm.
I know colleagues within the agile space. They say we always have two trainers, but we do it when it's possible. So that's
And maybe you don't want to go into the details, but what makes what are kind of acceptance criteria for saying it's possible? Does that need to be financial in the sense that we need to have a limited number of people, or is there something else? If you
Uh,
want to share, huh?
yeah, so it's a bit so within Xebia, it's availability of trainers. So if one person has a training planned, and well, there comes another request for a training, then obviously it's better for Xebia to go uh,
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, to do two
Multiple.
different to do two different trainings. And we sometimes have people coming from outside Xebia, and that might want to become a professional Scrum trainer or might want to become a certified Scrum trainer and ask if they can co-train with us. And then we just have to look at, okay, is this do we have enough participants? Like I said, minimum 6. But if you're with 2 people, it's probably a little bit more to keep it. Um, I don't want to say
Financial viable.
profitable,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Um, but other than that, if like at Xebia, we have a lot of autonomy, so we can decide
Mhm.
on a lot of things our own. If we think it's a good idea, if we think it delivers value to our customers, so it makes our training even better, then there's no such not a lot of acceptance criteria.
But that's, yeah. Thanks for sharing, because it always gives an insight in how people think. I really, well, and I'm not surprised with the last few sentences that you said about the freedom at Tibia. I mean, again, I've never followed the training with you people, but I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of you in at conferences
Mhm.
in the last, well, not the last years. I mean, Nicole was there, I think, from the very first XP
Mhm.
Day Benelux. So already a long time
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we've seen each other, have known each other,
yeah.
and in very active, just like Lawrence, very active in all three of you, I would say, in
Hmm.
the community.
Sure.
So I'm not surprised about that part of it. So thanks for sharing that, and thanks for, well, bringing these wonderful people. I do hope, Nicole, if you see this, that you do get inspired after hearing Evelien. But again, I'm not going to force people. There is, I think the full list is I did count yesterday, 619 or 91 people that are on the list to invite. I think about 300 people invited, and I didn't count yesterday, but I think about 17 people right now who said no when Evelien and Nicole is one of them, and everyone has their own personal reasons
Hmm.
for not to do that, which is of course perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a wonderful time to being together. For the people that want to connect you, what is a good way to connect with you?
Um, well, LinkedIn would be my
I'll
first tip.
show again the link that I shared already earlier
Yeah,
on.
so that's one. And I'm active on Instagram and TikTok.
Hmm.
You can find me.
And do you share agile tips and tricks on TikTok?
Yeah, I tried, but my kids think it's like really cringe that I do that.
My daughter forbid me to go on TikTok, so
Yeah,
you're already allowed to do that. So that's already a
yeah.
step better.
Whenever I post something, one of my kids says, "Oh, mom, do you next time want me to do that?" I say, "Why? I have a different audience, so it doesn't really matter how it looks."
Oh, but actually, it could give you the opportunity to do some together, because I didn't calculate correctly, but if you talked about when you had your children, that means that there were like 16, 17 at this
Yes,
point
yeah,
in time. So that's
17 and 23. And I have
so
one younger kid of she turns 8 end of December. So I have 3 kids.
wow. That's yeah, we didn't went into that part, and of course, um but that indeed, you said that in very earlier on that you had 3 children.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's what I want to say. But yeah, for me, I've actually worked with all 3 of my children
yeah.
at
Hmm.
multiple kind of things,
Yeah.
and I've never done an online thing like that, but
Hmm.
actually I think if there is an opportunity for people to work with your children or your
Mhm.
parents, because I actually have done a training with with my
Yeah.
father as well,
Oh,
it's
really?
a wonderful opportunity. I would
Mhm.
really encourage you. It actually makes children understand much better what we're doing,
Mhm.
because I when I was young, I'm now talking 8 or something like that. When there was no school, I sometimes went with my father to his work,
Mhm.
but basically I just was sitting there reading books, or maybe allowed to touch a little bit the computer, fool around, and try some of the games or whatever that was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
installed there. But I
Mhm.
totally had no idea what he was doing. It's only until I did a workshop with him when I was more than 20, 20,
Mhm.
I don't know, 24, 25, something like that, that, yeah, I started to understand some of the things that he did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
that's good.
and I think, well, especially what you said about your friend that is using some of these techniques
Mhm.
in the school, it might be actually, well, I think it's very valuable if children are learning something about what we're doing, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, every time done something with my children, I learn again as much as they did.
Mhm.
It's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's
and they might teach you some good TikTok tricks. I don't know.
probably, yes, probably. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't want to make that my career. So I'll focus on LinkedIn. I'll do Instagram and TikTok on the side just for fun.
Well,
Um
you were talking about the future later on, so you never know, and they it might be a very financial interesting future if you would be on TikTok
yeah.
already.
Yeah, then I really have to step up my game because this is not going to pay me any bills,
but
this
but
content.
I would say they will do that for you, and then they provide you all the
That's a good business
that's
opportunity. I'll check with them if they still want to do it with me.
if they still want to do that with you. Exactly. Well, anyway, Evelyn, we're joking around, but I enjoyed this time being together. It was as much fun as I was assuming it was going to be. So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great having a chat with you. I love the questions that you asked. It's also good mirroring, and I think it's also a great learning experience. Like you said, and you learn stuff, I learn stuff. So, thank you for that.
Great. Okay. Well,
Cool.
let's say goodbye, and let's. I'm pretty sure we'll still meet again in the future.
Yes, probably. See you.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.